Hola, ¿cómo estás?
2020, it's not over yet.
Dun, 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 dun.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hola.
¿Cómo estás? Oh, look, there we are.
There we are.
All right, welcome to the echo chamber, friends. Um, where are we at? I was kept thinking, I love listening to Prometheum Action and Rich Does Politics, and my favorite forever is Juan. And I just listened to a Juan this morning with Jaco, and Juan's in Korea. And over the years, we've heard Juan going around the world to different places. South Africa is one in particular, and another one of them is South Korea. And it's kind of like, why does he always go to South Korea, right? So we don't have anyone on yet, so we're talking to ourselves, Bella.
No, there's three people on.
I'll get four now. Hello, welcome four.
People just aren't saying hello.
Oh, say hello to us. And finally got a bit of an indication as to why Juan always goes to South Korea. And we've been talking about, one in particular is saying, and I think it was, I can't think of his name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the 2026 midterms won't happen, that they'll be, put off. And he actually said that he thinks they'll be put off for at least a year this morning. But he's in South Korea. It's finally started raining. He was in South Korea and he was talking about this thing called AWEB, which is the Association of World Election Bodies. And the base of it is in Seoul in South Korea. And now this is a Chinese run operation. This is why Trump said China involvement in the 2020 elections. And so there's 111 countries, so 111, this number that keeps turning up. And it's in the occult, 111 is the number for war. And of course, we've seen Fauci last week with his, 111 times pleading the fifth, which is, all these things matter, right? But this AWEB, this Association of World Election Bodies, is through China, but run through South Korea from China, controlling election fraud in 111 countries so far. Well, there's 71 countries plus America that can prove election fraud, but there's 111 countries that are in this AWEB. But AWEB was being funded by USAID. So it's another clear indication of what Trump, they've got it all, right? They've got it all. So USAID, the funding from that's been cut. So now this AWEB thing is like, faltering. We got in Seoul, they had an election in June this year, which was corrupted and all paper ballots. They ran out of paper ballots. Everyone had to vote online. All this sort of shenanigans going on. Since June in Seoul, there've been, and it started out there were like 100,000 people outside in this public space protesting against election fraud. So it's still going now. They're still averaging. There's always at least a couple of thousand people in Seoul protesting. So they're pretty organised, the Asians. But there's all these like Chinese ghost voters and everything that live in Seoul. All this corruption, right? But it's all being exposed. And one is saying, like, nobody's heard of AWEB yet, but it's going to become everyone's going to know about AWEB and the Chinese involvement in election fraud over the next short while, right? So it's just another puzzle piece in this grand plan, this big picture. It's kind of, and it answers the question for me, why does one keep going to South Korea? Well, that's why. And it's all part to do with election. And, so, and again, he said that the midterms, they won't go ahead. Now, it was actually Bannon said that he made a public statement as well that elections won't go ahead, the midterm elections. So we'll see what happens. But it's a puzzle piece, right? This is such a gigantic behind the scenes puzzle. I don't know. I find it so exciting that we're getting to see all of these pieces. And to me, as you know, Juan has been at the forefront. Juan has been at the forefront. I don't think it's hail, but it's going to be coming in my window down there. I might have to go and shut it. Can you hold the floor for a minute?
I will hold the floor. Well, speaking of South Korea, it's so interesting because we think about, okay, how is this web of things connected? And, prior to the last 18 months, I never had any interest in going to Korea or South Korea. I've been to over 90 countries in my life, never had much interest in Asia at all. And the last 2 years in particular, my soul has been calling me to South Korea. And it's so interesting that previously I had no interest in going there. And now South Korea seems to be popping up everywhere. We're hearing all these speaks about AWEB, and my soul is drawing me to South Korea. Now, why? Why truly? Is my energy being guided there for a certain reason on some cosmic layer to, receive and transmit energy, or is it just a coincidence?
There are no coincidences, Bella.
Why would my soul be dragged there? It's very interesting.
It is interesting. It is. I've got a friend whose daughter just spent 6 months in South Korea and absolutely loves it. And I've been hearing people saying, I really want to go to South Korea. I really want to go to South Korea. So hearing Juan talk about South Korea this morning was just, like I said, it's another piece in the puzzle, right?
Well, I was going to be going to South Korea actually with a friend of mine who's going for a gorgeous getaway, but she's decided to go to China instead.
Wow.
So I was a bit disappointed about that because I thought I was going to tag along. And yes, of course, I can still go to South Korea on my own, but there's kind of nothing quite like going to a new place with a friend and having some fun.
China's awesome too. China's fantastic.
No interest in going to China just yet. Who knows? Not that I'm not going to, but I was only going to tag along on her gorgeous getaway because she was going to South Korea.
Food in South Korea is amazing. I lived in Taiwan for a couple of years, many moons ago. And one of my favorite places to go and eat was at the South Korean. There were some Korean restaurants there, and the food's phenomenal. So, but this week as well, they're wheeling Kamala out again. Have you noticed? And there's talk that they'll run her again for the 2028 against Trump.
Surely not. Oh God, I can hear all the woke lefties now.
Oh, Kamala's back.
All the feminists. Oh my God, Kamala.
But so this week I've seen Kamala quite a few times, and there was one in particular where she was standing up talking about, how what a disgusting man Trump is. For pulling the funding on USAID, and how many millions of people have died as a result of this funding not being received in these foreign lands. We even had Hunter Biden come out. Zeppa, stop that. We even had Hunter Biden come out this week calling the removal of USAID funds from foreign lands genocide. He said millions have died. Like Hunter Biden. We're going to take his word for it, aren't we, friends? I followed Candace for a while with her Charlie Kirk investigation, and I still find it fascinating, and I say kudos to you, Candace, for the work you're doing there. But the minute she interviewed Hunter Biden, that was it for me. I can't. How do you take somebody seriously who is interviewing Hunter Biden and all they're focusing on is his drug use? Like, who agrees with me on that one? But yeah, it's a genocide, friends. The biggest genocide in the history of the world, apparently, according to Hunter Biden.
I had a conversation with AI after our last show last week. When I'm putting the shows up on YouTube and Rumble, I drop the transcript into AI so I can come up with show notes and all sorts of different things. So I dropped our show from last week into AI, and it told me it wasn't going to help me with that conversation because it was filled with propaganda and lies.
Dangerous.
So if you think that AI is not programmed by the powers that be, you are sorely mistaken, because it still is fed a narrative, right? It's still fed a particular narrative that it has to abide by, because the programmers that program it are the globalists, the elite. Sorry to say.
Yeah, they're the Lucy's in Silicon Valley, aren't they, friends? So yeah, so we've got Kamala running in 2028 apparently, which is going to be so much fun. Passport. Fancy complaining about you either need a passport or a birth certificate to prove your citizenship in America to vote. Like, how outrageous is that? She's like, not everybody has a passport, and the other ones, they have to have a birth certificate. It's like, and
You know, I had a disagreement with a friend recently who's just gone to the States, and he wrote this post on social media about how he was horrified that he had to get fingerprinted going into the States, and oh my God, you know, they're taking over our lives and blah, blah, blah. And I said, what planet are you on? You've had to be fingerprinted going into the States for at least 2 decades. He's like, no, you haven't. And I was like, you have. You know, it used to just be the 2 index fingers, and now it's, you know, all 10 fingers, right? And he argued with me till he was blue in the face, but anyone could get on Google, when did fingerprinting come into the States, and you will discover it was 2004. 22 years they've been fingerprinting, so they got everything already anyway.
Yeah, it's no doubt came through the Patriot Act, friends. Everything changed worldwide after 9/11 and the introduction of the Patriot Act. So our whole world system, our whole world changed, and it showed specifically through airports.
Yeah, through airports, and you know, like we've talked about this before on this show. You know, the X-ray machines used to always be able to deny the X-ray machine. You could always ask for a pat down, and they've now made it law, absolute law, that you cannot get on a plane unless you go through the X-ray machine. So you cannot argue it anymore. It's like, do you want to go on a plane or not? Right. So you can get really fired up about these things, or you can just accept it and do your best to make sure you're having good quality food, sunlight, water, you know, taking care of your body in other ways, and not focusing on the things that you cannot control.
And speaking of focusing on things that we cannot control, Angel here says, it's a joke, lol. I'm just rolling towards my bliss of life. I have walked away from it, all of these puppets. I have let it go of the 3D crap. Yeah, look, absolutely. We all have to turn it off from time to time and focus on our bliss, right? More so now than ever. And you know, we talk about this all the time. We have to find a balance, otherwise it overwhelms, and it sort of takes over your life. Like, it kind of took over our lives in 2020. It certainly took over my life for quite a few years, looking at all the political crap. I never thought I'd be interested in anything political, but you know, we've all been forced to look at this stuff, and to look at it from not what we're shown on legacy media, but what else is there? What lives have we been told? So I still find it super fascinating. I still love all the 3D crap, but I'm very aware that that's not all there is to this. It's like watching a movie. Speaking of movies, I remember about 5 years ago I came across Atlas Shrugged, the Ayn Rand. There was a lot of talk about Ayn Rand and Atlas Shrugged, and I tried to get the Atlas Shrugged movie, and it was banned in Australia. So for the last 5 years, you couldn't watch Atlas Shrugged. I ordered the books, but they're like that thick, and the print's that small, and the paper's like wafer thin, and I'm like, fuck, I'm never going to get through these books, right? So I touched them for a while, thinking osmosis will get me there, but it didn't. But last week, just this week actually, Atlas Shrugged has been released in Australia on Netflix. So there are 3 parts to this Atlas Shrugged, based on the work of Ayn Rand. So I watched Atlas Shrugged this week. Now, it was good. It was really interesting. One of the main concepts of Atlas Shrugged is free energy, right? The magnetic free energy. So that's one of the main focal points of it. the rest of it's kind of like 1984. So society is going into a complete totalitarian sort of arena, and the governments and corporations and businesses and banks are all exactly what's happening right now. You know, taking over and taking any power away from people to make their own decisions. So it was actually really interesting. There were a couple of parts of it where it was kind of like it was kind of a little bit weird. But if you've ever had a fascination or a desire to watch Atlas Shrugged, it's available on Netflix. And I was surprised because of the timing, and it made me question who's running Netflix. Is it the white hats? We're beginning to get some disclosure through the mainstream media. There's word that the white hats have, taken over these things, and it's a slow, soft drip. So I wanted to know, have any of you guys watched Atlas Shrugged? Because again, we couldn't get it here in Australia.
You could.
No, well, you maybe through some VPN bullshit, but you couldn't get it, right? For all intents and purposes.
VPNs are, not as useful as they once were. A lot of these streaming giants have figured out if you're using a VPN and block you. I mean, there's always a way. But I was trying to rip something off Spotify the other day, and all of the ways that I used to be able to rip things from Spotify had been blocked, and I had to actually buy software so that I could rip off Spotify. So you can still do it. There's always workarounds. It was my own podcast episode, by the way, that I was featured on someone else's podcast, and I wanted a copy of it, and I couldn't download it. I could have it on my phone, but I couldn't get the actual MP3 file, right? So yeah, I ripped some softwares, had the file. I'm starting to collate everything and put it into places. Like our YouTube, all of our videos, we lost for years and years and years and years. And I'm starting to realize that, we're going to have to take more awareness if we want to keep this content, because, these giant places can just, wipe us at any time if they want to.
They can. I mean, as far as holding on to every single episode that we've ever done or anyone else has ever done, I've sort of gone through phases where who cares, it's gone. And then it's kind of like, well, but there's no record of it. And it's like, do I care? It seems to be attached to ego. Do I need to prove that, whatever, all that bullshit. But yeah, 30 days these videos stay up on Facebook, and then they're gone now. So yeah, we've started putting it up on Rumble and YouTube as a way to kind of hold on to them. But again, they could be gone tomorrow.
Rumble could go closed down, YouTube channel could get shut down, and even cloud storage, you've got things in the cloud, Dropbox or whatever, you could still lose access to things that are in the cloud. And even your hard drives, they corrupt over time. So if you got your photos, old school terabyte, gig hard drives, even the really good quality ones, they corrupt after a period of time. And I had hard drives with things on them from 10 years ago. The hard drive won't even open.
And that's exactly why the people in South Korea and in America are calling for hand count paper ballots. So with elections, right? Hand count paper ballots, and that's it. There's a reason why, because you can't, I've started buying old DVDs again because of this. They change things in old movies as well. So we'll see, but it's nice to have a few DVDs in case for when it all goes down. I think too, we'll still have some movies to watch.
I know my friend the other day, I was talking to her about, she's like, how did we all get sucked into paying a monthly Spotify subscription? We used to buy a CD and own it and listen to it endlessly. She's like, you don't own anything anymore. It's all on rent basis.
Yeah. And with all of this, talking about money, or we weren't talking about money, but it all comes down to money, right? This week, there's been a lot coming out about the Japanese yen. And again, Juan always said, watch Japan. They're like the canary in the coal mine, right? And so the Japanese banks, the government, they've had this, what's called a carry system, which they have a very low interest rates in Japan, say 1% interest on loans. So people come in from overseas, take out big loans of Japanese yen, go back overseas, and then lend that money out at 10%, 12%. So they're making profit on this money. And just this week, America, and I think it was Scott Bessent, spoke about it. But that basically America have injected, I think it's like 700 million or 7 billion, some huge amount of money. They've injected into Japan, and they've used euro dollars. They haven't used US dollars, but they're basically to help Japan recover some of this. And I don't know how it works, but it's the carry trade in Japan, right? But it all boils down to money wars and how um, banks use money and people use money to make money, And so I thought I also heard this week that here in Australia, the HSBC, which Hong Kong Shanghai Bank here in Australia, they've just sold off all of their housing loans to Blackstone, which is a BlackRock company that are purchasing all the real estate and whatnot here in Australia. And so I thought, well, I'll go and watch The Big Short again, because it's a fucking great movie if you guys haven't seen it. So The Big Short basically covers the 2008 financial crash, which came about through all the low doc housing loans in America, and how they had all these C loans and they put them into B, all these what they call tranches, which is basically big lumps of loans, and then they'd on-sell these loans, and the HSBC thing reminded me of that. And it just blows my mind. And then with this Japanese carry trade and how all of these sons of bitches use money to make money. I also just started watching, I can't think what it's called, the Truda scandal or something in Sweden, which was like 20 or 25, 30 years ago, where these men they'd set up a company and they'd buy companies. I don't know how they did it, right? But with the company's own money. So all these things are like, they create all of this paper money that is not worth anything, but they're buying multi-million-dollar companies with it. And then, I mean, they get busted. And then they act like they're the victim, right? It's like, well, the opportunity's there. Why wouldn't we take it? Like, the whole fucking system is so fucking corrupt and horrendous. And this Japanese carry trade that everyone's been talking about this week, and on top of this HSBC, selling on their loan, selling on their debts to Blackstone and whatnot. And it's kind of like, how the fuck does all of that work? Like, the money system is extraordinary, right? I find it endlessly fascinating. But yeah, all these, and there's big talk at the moment about all the real estate markets, losing value, beginning to slow down. 30% off here, 20% off there. This one's down 13%. No one's buying or selling here in Australia at the moment, really. Everything's sort of come to a grinding halt, which is interesting because, these economic cycles, right, which, fucking 10 years ago, I wouldn't have had any interest in them at all. But it's all very interesting. And we can look back on these movies, and some of them let us know, some of them let us in on what's been going on. And obviously we keep watching our favorite people on the the internet that tell us the truth rather than what the legacy media.
Things are changing so rapidly. I've had a friend recently buy a unit and by the beachside, and then 4 months later he changed his mind. He decided he didn't want to live there anymore, and he sold the unit. And then 3 months later tried to get another loan for another place and got knocked back because the borrowing rules had changed in that 3-month period. So now he's left himself out of the market, and it's just crazy that it can change so quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, it can just change so quickly. And yeah, I guess people that could get a loan before can't now, and there's all sorts of weird things happening. And with the cost of properties at the moment, I don't foresee how a young person that's earning $1,000 a week can actually get a mortgage, or if they would even want to.
The problem is they do want to. And the great Australian dream has always been to own your own house on a quarter-acre block, right? It's the great Australian dream. It's a bit of a nightmare for a lot of people. The Atlas Shrugged thing, going back to that for a minute, because it was over the last 5 years, the whole who is John Galt, and we've heard, I wonder if they were John Galted, and it was kind of like, well, what does that fucking mean? Well, now I know, because I've watched Atlas Shrugged. I know who John Galt is, and I know what it means when people say, were they John Galted? So if you want to know what that is, it's a bit like the Gone with the Wind, like Gone with the Wind, John Galted, kind of the same thing, really. But again, all the puzzle pieces, right? Fucking huge tapestry. Definitely a buyer's market right now. I believe real estate is a good investment. Hey, look, you know what, Penny? It's always going to be real estate as a home. I think real estate should be primarily, particularly houses. Commercial real estate's a different story. But it should be primarily for houses for people to live in. Once we start, having 10 investment properties and all that sort of thing. And I know that people still need to rent, and all that. So it's all good. But yeah, real estate's always going to be a good investment if you buy it at the right time, right? Like any other investment.
Sorry, I got a dog at my my leg, giving me a little fish, going, throw this for me.
Not now, Sappy.
It's very funny.
And
It's very
funny. What else? I listened to a nice interview this week. Who was it with? Actually, it was with Rich. Rich does politics.
I think if I listened to as many interviews as you, I'd have to learn how to crochet or something. If I was sitting and listening, I'd have to do something with my hands.
I do.
Yeah.
Charles Foxtrot, his name, wasn't he? He's written a book. He wrote it a few years ago, but it's all about Q. Because we're hearing more and more about Q, right? The Q operation and who's behind or what's behind the Q operation. And we still get people saying, "Are you being Q'd hard?" Right? And I just want a T-shirt. I'm being Q'd hard, but But Charles Foxtrot, if you're interested in knowing a bit more about Q and how it came about and that sort of thing, go and listen to Rich Does Politics interview with Charles Foxtrot. So he's obviously got he's got a book. So obviously I've ordered that book because it'll be another osmosis book, talking about how it's a communication system and a very, very complex military operation. And how Trump was invited to run by 200 generals and all that sort of stuff. But Q is another one of these endlessly fascinating things that we've heard about that add pieces to this giant puzzle. I also listened to an interview. It wasn't even an interview this week. It was just a little piece by I always have a blank on his name, but talking about who the true rulers are. So who the true puppet masters are at the top, and whether they're even human or not, suggesting that indeed they are not human, they are off-world beings, and that the proof of that if you look back into the ancient rock carvings and ancient scrolls and whatnot, they all talk about these off-world beings as our rulers, and the ones that came and they taught us, they gave us the science, they gave us the technology, so that we could thrive as humanity. Now, it all seems to be out of control. Put him out. Zephyr, get out. Go on. Out you go.
No, out. Out you go.
Naughty dog. Bad dog. Oh, it's actually a really good dog, but he gets a bit excited.
He's got his toy in my lap the whole time, just nudging me. It's because whenever I come over here, I always throw his toy for him. So he's like, "Hey, you toy thrower." Yes.
Yes. Well, I might save that one for later. Um, then
Nah, do it.
no, no. I've come up with a theory as well, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I reckon that these data centers, I don't think we need to be worried about these data centers. I actually think these are like a trap for all the money that's been put into data centers through Silicon Valley, through the AI, all the investment, the money, the banks, all the money going in there. Personally, I just think it's a big trap to get this money. I don't think we'd have to worry about the data centers. I could be wrong. It's fucking, what the fuck would I know, right? But is anyone else Aboriginal paintings? Yes. Yeah. Egyptian hieroglyphs here in Australia, friends. Egyptian hieroglyphs from thousands and thousands of years ago, found in rock carvings around Australia. Explain that. You know, Libby, you agree? Yeah, I reckon we're definitely on the same page, Libby. I don't think we need to worry about it. I think it's just a fear tactic. Um, yeah.
I've come to see a lot of everything that started in 2020 as being fear tactics. You know, all of the things that people said, oh, they're going to come to your home and force vaccinate you. They're going to put us in vaccine camps. They're going to do this, they're going to do that. And none of it happened. I think there's so much fear and propaganda that actually hits both sides. You know, the truther community. Did anyone see that Joe Fells passed away this week? Do you know who Joe Fells is? Anyone? Does anyone know Joe Fells? He was a 40-year-old, huge free thinker, traveled around the world looking at all these different, artifacts, and had the true Bible and all this sort of stuff. So Joe Fells has passed away very suddenly. Prior to that, he'd said, I'm not suicidal, yada, yada, yada. And it just sends people down these rabbit holes that keep going, particularly when these big influential um, freedom thinkers keep getting taken out or keep dying. And, they haven't released how he died.
Get John Goldschmidt, friend.
They haven't released how he died, but it does send people spiraling into like these deeper and deeper conspiracy holes.
I actually heard about Joe Fells this week. I'd never heard of him. I didn't know who he was, but his name came up on a comment feed under somebody was doing covering the Perez Hilton incident this week, and Joe Fells's name came up, and I thought I must look him up, but it was like, yeah, he's passed away. But it was, yeah, so. And yeah, we don't need to go into the.
He was a big thought thinker, though, right? And some of the stuff he was doing was incredibly, confronting for the deep state, let's say. So when someone that's covering this sort of work leaves the planet, it does leave a lot of unanswered questions, particularly when no cause of death has been released.
Yeah, and if you've watched Atlas Shrugged, well, we don't know where these people go. Do they really die? The ones that speak out, it's always the ones that speak out.
So always the ones that speak out. Or are they in some alternate reality? Are they beyond Antarctica? Have they all been taken to a place all these freedom thinkers thought to create a new humanity? Who knows?
Penny agrees with you. She thinks the Joe Fells thing is fake. They said he committed suicide. He said he would never commit suicide. Alexa, I was in a US live yesterday. There was mentioned data centers were a front for changing water supplies. I agree, it's all fear. Yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see. But anything they try and scare us with too much, fuck you. I'm not buying it. I'm just not going to buy it. Because we got no control over it anyway, right? The only thing we've got control over is how we respond to this information that comes at us. We either respond fearfully or we go, oh, hang on a minute, this feels like an attack. Why? Why would they be doing that? We need to ask questions, and we need to ask when our body responds to something, oh, what was that? Was that feels like an attack. It's a bit like in the fires this week and last week in Spokane in Washington. Obviously, appear very much like the fires that happened in Lahaina. Blue roofs, cars melted, trees still standing, houses disintegrated. You know, how many of these supposed natural events, friends, natural events, do we have to see before it becomes too obvious?
And I remember, back from 2020 all the ways up until 2024, 2025, probably, I used to post all of this stuff on my Instagram, and it didn't do me any favors at all. I was completely shadow banned. I was blocked in the algorithm. I was banned from advertising my business for 2 whole years. It didn't help when I shared these things. I don't think I even contributed to humanity or made a dent. So, what's the alternative to that? To sharing and sharing and circulating all these videos? Is it just to live our life, to live our best life, to get out in the sun and change our own reality? Is that the alternative?
I think it's both. I think we don't, it's not one thing or the other. We're not one-dimensional beings. We're multi-dimensional beings. And every word has a power.
I don't think I woke anyone up.
It's not about that. It's about affecting the sphere, right? It's about because I've often questioned, why are we doing this? Why do we need to keep talking? There's too many people talking. It's just fucking words, right? But words, and like the kind of work that Cliff High does, where the programs that he's written look at all the internet chatter and they come up with a pattern. So it's all about patterns, and through those patterns you can almost sort of like take a guess at predict what will unfold in the future. So if we've got more and more people speaking out, continuing to speak out, continuing to think, because I think our thoughts are things as well. It's not just the words that we speak. They all have an impact on the vibration, and that includes going to the beach and surfing and raising that vibration higher. And if we're coming from a place of fear with our words and like, oh my God, we're going to have to all save our money, we're going to have to, do all it. That's not helping, right? And like we're sitting here and we're certainly not coming up with the solutions. But I'm listening to people who have come up with solutions, small, like even like Stephen Stephen on he's on Rich Does Politics a lot. He's got a thing in America, tab underscore. It's where basically it's where in America, like there's, and it's probably the same in Australia, I don't know, but in all the states and counties, there's something like 1,000 empty seats, like mayoral seats and county clerk seats, and all these seats that are just available. And he's got a program that if you go in and you say, I'm in, Albuquerque, wherever you are, you type in your area and up comes available seats. So as a Republican or a conservative or whatever, you can apply to fill that seat. And he reckons more often than not, you get that seat without any competition, because no one even knows that these seats are available. So tab.us or something like that it is, tab underscore, anyway. But these are things that people can do. Mel Kay she's always spoken about, the same thing, like go to your local councils, get to your local places and join, because then you have a voice, then you can make some changes. So there are people doing things. We look at Juan traveling around and exposing what's been going on. All of these things help. I think that's why we do it.
And I think our local councils do have a lot more access to information than we realize, you know. And in my own life with my son, for example, you know, denied entry to school, kicked out of daycare, all these things. At the time, his dad wrote to the member of parliament and was like, well, what are we supposed to do? He's been denied entry to all these things. Like, what the fuck? And the member of parliament was like, oh, why isn't he going to Journey to Learn, which is this specialised facility, which we'd never heard of. And do you know, I live on the Gold Coast. The amount of people that have challenges that have never heard of this facility, but our local council had. So they have their fingers in a lot of different networks. So whatever it is that's going on in your life, your local council's probably got a solution for you.
Or at least can point you in the right direction.
Point you in the right direction. That's correct. That's probably a better way of putting it. Can point you in the right direction of where to go, how to, because if it's a business operating somewhere, chances are they've had to get council approval, they've had to get, you know, some sort of thing to be able to operate.
You know, the problem with councils and local, you know, all this local sort of local councils, and there's too many of them. There's too, and they're all paid too much, and
too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Man, you know, there's one page that I follow here. It's called "Remove the Satanic Monstrosity," and it's basically at the council chambers here on the Gold Coast. There's this giant 7-meter high statue that's right at the front entrance of the art gallery part of the council, and it's this gigantic satanic fucking thing with all these pedophile symbols all over it. It's got an upside down baby. You know, it's the color, it's the blood, it's, you know, and it's by some Indian artist who's, if you look through his work, it's all satanic, it's all pedophilic. And, you know, so this group are like constantly get rid of that fucking thing. It's fucking, but, you know, our beautiful and wonderful, and I've said this before on this show, our beautiful, wonderful mayor here, who is one of the most corrupt people probably in Australia, he says, have another drink until you find that you like it. I mean, this, you know, this is what you're up against as well, but at least I guess things like getting into these places, it gives you a vote, it gives you a voice against that sort of thing. I mean, I don't know. Councils need to be replaced with communities, absolutely. And I think that's the way it will go, because it's the bureaucracy. They're all tied. It's all top down, all the way down to the governments, to the local councils. You know, someone said last week about, you know, Fauci's just the figurehead. Yeah, he is the figurehead, but he put himself in that position, and all the, you know, the premiers and everyone here in Australia, from the Prime Minister down, they all got their message from the people that gave Fauci his message. They're all working for the same demons at the top, really. I don't know. I don't know what the return, the answer to it all, though, is the return, and this is what Trump's doing. Trump and the team are doing, and this is the return of the American system, where the power goes back to the people. It's not top-down government; it's community-based groups that work within their own communities, and it's the bureaucracy isn't there. It's this British system where there's so much bureaucracy. It strangles things. I mean, to put up a shed in your front yard here, it's probably going to cost you more than what the shed's worth just in red tape to get approval to put the fucking shed up, right? And then if you want to go and sell your property, it's very difficult if you've got a little shed in the front yard that wasn't approved by council. It makes it really difficult to sell your property. All this stuff, right, that you don't even know about.
I'm arguing with my local council at the moment because the road right out the front of my place is filled with potholes, and I sent them an email and said, I'll pay my council rates when you fix the potholes, when you come and resurface the road. There's $1.5 billion light rail tram project, which has had road graders out the front of my house for the last 3 months because I've been resurfacing the whole road, parked 100 meter from my house, and they don't park, this section. They sent me an email saying that it's on was it the 2028 or 2029 budget to fix this section of the road? And I was like, not good enough, not paying. So someone's come in and put gravel in the holes. It's like, and then they email me, oh, it's been fixed. It's like, no, it hasn't. That's not going to work.
You need to move to Victoria, Bella, to Victoriastan, where everybody in Victoria knows about the potholes. Apparently there are like metre-wide potholes on freeways and stuff down in Victoria. It sounds like, it's the end of the world. You got these giant potholes and these tiny rubbish bins, right? This is what's important in Victoria.
Well, the reason for me is it's state bureaucracy, because the council is saying, one is saying that my section of the road is state government, and the other body's saying that it's federal government. So we got these departments fighting for each other, fobbing each other off, saying this one section of the road is the other person there, so it's under nobody's job award.
Just keep passing the buck, friends. Keep passing the buck.
And I've had an abandoned car parked out the front of my house for 9 months. 9 months. It's like got trees growing up around the wheels and everything.
Alexa, exactly, Jane. Community law that humanity had decades ago, not a corporation in sight. I believe they call it Ubuntu in Africa. And we can speak to the Indigenous people here on this land and talk about their law that was here before we were. Where, it's community, it's tribal based. If someone fucks up, and it really comes down to natural law, if someone fucks up, they're dealt with by the community. There's no courts, there's no this, there's no that. People know if I steal and I get caught, I'm going to have to pay the price. Personally, I think we need big tattoos on people's foreheads, pedophile, thief, dickhead,
rapist,
just cock and balls, right? I'm a dickhead. All the,
and if you try and cover it with makeup, it glows like neon. It gets right through. So there's nothing you could do. I mean, you could wear a hat, but then it comes through the hat and it says it on the outside of the hat too.
I personally like that sort of thing. So I wonder what mine would say, friends.
I know when I was little, when I went to the swimming pool, my parents always used to tell me if you wee in the pool that this red ink comes out that changes the colour of the pool, so everyone can tell that you've weed in the pool. So I'm like, oh God, I'm not going to wee in the pool.
Linda, Trump seems to be bringing down the imperial system and allowing sovereign nations to build progress and live together in peace. That's exactly what he's doing. That's exactly what the plan is. It's anti-globalista. It's anti-one world government, one world religion. That's exactly what the white hats are doing. And it's a beautiful thing. It's about everybody benefits. The people benefit. It's not just the motherfuckers at the top where all the money siphons up to the top. Congratulations this week to there was a cowboy in America, Jordan Salinas, his name was, who shot a lone gunman who'd shot a couple of people in a restaurant. It was an In-N-Out restaurant I think it was in Idaho. And this gunman had already shot 2 people. And this cowboy came along with his gun and bang, took him out. That's natural law, right? That is natural law. And that is the community taking power into its own hands.
I mean, if you'd been in Australia, you'd go to jail for murder.
You would go to jail in Australia. Even I saw a story this week about a woman who she caught some people on her property in her shed, I think, and they were stealing things. And she's grabbed a baseball bat and she's fucking whacked them, and they've run off. She actually took them somewhere else to go and get back some of her stuff, and there were other people there and she's beaten them with a fucking baseball bat. She's going to court. She's
in jail, no bail.
She's in jail, no bail. Like, fuck. That's what happens in Australia.
And she's an NDIS support worker, which she helps people with disabilities. So now it's like, oh, it's all because of the NDIS. She's ripping off the system. Like, it's all like, it's so, they use any way to like twist things.
Yes, the English free trade system is basically slavery, right? It's literally slavery. There's no power. The people have no power. They have no say. They get what you're fucking given. You'll have nothing. You'll own nothing, and you'll be fucking happy about it. All right? Shut the fuck up. No. So, America they're building factories. People are, the girls at Prometheum talk about they're desperately trying to get workers in America. They're offering their AI-proof jobs, right? They're calling them AI-proof, where they're trade works like boilermakers and electricians and all that sort of thing, where young people can come in and train, and that eventually they're earning sort of upwards of $80,000 a year, right? The end of like things like when all of our politicians, even if they're the worst kind of politician, like Albo, right? When he retires, he'll still receive from the government coffers, which is taxpayer dollars, $500,000 a year. That's more than what the American president earns in 1 year. And that's retirement for the rest of his life.
Yeah, prime ministers are only in for a few months, like Julia Gillard. She's getting it. They get it for life.
They all get it.
They all get it.
And then if they die, their spouses continue to get it. And it's not just the money. They get houses. They don't have to pay travel. They get fucking allowances. So on top of the $500,000 a year, they get all this other money. It's fucking insane. Lowly politicians, they all get it. They're all in this $300,000, $50,000, $100,000 a year fucking pensions. Like, it's insane. The end that has to end, friends. It's got to fucking end. Yeah, that Perez Hilton thing was fucking horrendous, wasn't it? We don't have to go there, but I don't really have many notes this week. It's all been about kind of looking at how corrupt the money system is, the banking system. If you haven't watched The Big Short, go and watch it because it's Have you ever seen it?
Not sure if I have or not.
Oh, it's great. It's really good. Really great movie. Apparently the not the IRGC crew in Iran, friends, the ones who want the IRGC out of Iran. Apparently there's all these weapons being smuggled into Iran, and so all these, let's just call them freedom fighters, who have to keep on the very down low because they're going to get shot if they speak up. You can't, apparently when earlier they speak about when that 50,000 people were killed in Iran for protesting. They reckon the number of that was a lot higher as well. So you speak up in Iran against the IRGC, you may as well kiss your life goodbye. But apparently, yeah, there's all these weapons being smuggled into Iran, arming these freedom fighters. It's all underground at the moment, but it's a big movement, right? So we'll see how that works out. They're all installed actors. Perez Hilton and Ariana Grande, new video. That's right. Like about a week before Perez did his, TikTok half hour, they let it run for on TikTok, self-slashing, whatever, hideous, right? Did you see the Ariana Grande? So she's put out a video, I think it was about a week and a half ago, where she's basically just covered in blood, and it shows she's got a razor blade, implying that it's, she's self-harmed. I mean, this is a sick world we live in. We've seen Gaga in a meat suit and all that shit over the years. Like, fucking gross. Fucking gross, friends. Gross. Community, government, continuity of government, 40, 45, 46, 47, 48. Wheeling around. I think we might be. The NBA and the women's NBA has decided that trans women can now play in the Women's National Basketball Association in America. So there's all these.
You're going to have all these giant, mediocre men becoming pro women.
There was one former NBA player, Royce White. Apparently he's put a wig on and he's got the beard and everything. He's got a wig on. He's like, I can't wait to start playing with the girls because I'm a transgender now. Like, they seem to be taking the piss out of it, right? Which is good. fucking men playing in women's basketball, any women's sport, right? Why are we still going through this? I was speaking with a friend yesterday. She's gay. She's an adult. She's whatever. I've got plenty of gay friends. I never fucking worried me, never even thought about it. But we were having a conversation about the LGBTQFU agenda, and how, it's in the kindergartens and the drag queens and all that sort of shit. And I said to her, I follow a page on Instagram called Gays Against Groomers, and it's the gay community in Australia saying, "Fucking hell, we've been hijacked. Like we are not part of that LGBTQFU agenda. Like that is not
What's
us.
FU stand for?
Fuck you." That's the. But yeah, she had no idea that there was a site of gay people that were standing up for gay people. Saying we're not part of them. We don't want to we don't want our babies being taught anal sex, how to give a head job. We don't want our kindergarten kids being shown how to shove a rainbow flag up their ass. We don't want that. And they're exposing it. And she was just like, "Oh my God, I had no idea about that." And I'm like, "Go and check it out." Because she's like, "I don't want that either, right? I'm not for that." And I was very pleased to hear that, because some people don't know the difference, right? They don't fucking know the difference.
She's definitely not for that.
Trans women already play in the Women's National Basketball Association. Brittany Griner, is it Grinder?
Is she a woman? Is she a man? I did not know that. Is Brittany Griner a man? It's like the tallest female, right? And she's listed as the tallest female player.
It's equal opportunity, friends.
Well, I'll be fucked. That's a man. Well, there you go.
Diversity, inclusion, equity, friends. It's the backbone of society.
I did not know that. There you go. The tallest female player is actually a man. Fancy that. She's like 7 foot, right? Let me double check that. I'm gonna double check that before we go.
Cecil, I love it when you keep it real too, my friend. Oh, I fucking love it. We're not much about keeping it unreal here, friends. It's all about authenticity and fucking say it as it is. Or say it as we think it is, as we feel it is at the time, because we need to remain flexible in our our views, and as we go through these things, because this is and we're still in the days. We're still in
7 foot. Brittany Griner.
We're still in the days, friends.
I remember I looked up recently who was the tallest. That's how I knew. And
7.
And I thought, fuck, that's tall for a woman. There you go. It's actually a man.
So I don't know if they've just made, I don't know, but it seems to have been, there seems to be a lot of big blokes coming out saying, "Oh, yeah, well, I'll be one of the girls. Can't wait to play with the girls."
7 foot's huge.
7 foot's it's insane. I think probably, what's his name? Trump is probably about 7 foot tall, isn't he? Yeah.
Barron Trump. Yeah, Barron Trump is.
He's taller than Trump. Trump's about 6'5" or something, and Barron sort of. I would send you a pic of Brittany, but that's all right.
No, I've seen her. I'll show you guys, because she's here. We'll go images.
Thank you, Libby. Everyone enjoy with your popcorn and your beers, and be prepared and stay positive. Be prepared.
Yeah, pretty manly looking.
Oh, she's so pretty.
She's so pretty.
She's so pretty.
Oh yeah, look at her there.
Oh God, dude. That's only the top half we get.
You may be wondering why I looked it up, because I'm a basketball player from way back, and I was watching a women's basketball game recently, and it's changed a lot. The game has changed a lot, and I was like, man, these are big bitches, right? So then I was curious who's the biggest.
So when he got arrested in Russia, they put him into a men's prison. So right. There you go. They know what's going on in Russia for the most part. They're not going to fuck. They don't fuck around with the LGBTQFU agenda over there. All right. Well, that's it, guys, for this week.
Kicks and puns.
Love your guts. We'll see you next week. Keep up the good work, friends. Keep it up. Not you, Brittany. Put that down.
Put it down.